But that's one thing, again, that's why I appreciate football so much. And that's why I want to then impart that knowledge. It makes you stronger, as a person. Then it teaches you that you make the mistake, you don't dwell on it, because you dwell on it, then you're going to make another one and another one. So you make a mistake, forget about it quickly and go on. The next one can come the same way, where you're the hero and then the second you can be the villain. The same, it can happen that you make a big mistake, then you concentrate, then it changes, then you make big saves. It's an emotional game, but you by yourself.
With supporters and fans that are overly emotional. And have theories about everything. Welcome to the Listen to Your Footsteps podcast. I'm your host, Kojo Baffoe. In this podcast, I speak to Africans from across a multitude of sectors, including business, art, culture, media, design, technology, advertising, and everything in between, delving into their journeys and reflecting on the lessons they have learned along the way. It's about gaining insight into why and how they do what they do. These conversations offer a treasure trove of takeaways on a wide range of topics, including craft, relationships, wellness, parenting, entrepreneurship, and much more. So my guest today is football legend Brian Baloyi. He's also an entrepreneur, philanthropist, an advocate for empowerment of future generations through sport, a father, a partner, ne?
Yeah.
My first question is a very random question, which I've always wondered. Like, I remember growing up, when you were put in goals, it was usually you were the worst player or you didn't have anything to offer in the field.
Yeah.
So they put you in goals. Was goalkeeper always your thing?
Funny, no. Goalkeeping started getting into it around 12 or so. Growing up in Alex, so this guy, he was coaching. He was much older. He was a goalkeeper. But then he was our coach as the under 12 in the club that I played for. And at that time, I was just playing as a center back. But this guy saw something in me and he insisted on me being goalkeeper, but I didn't like it for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Like you say, growing up, the chubby one, the lazy one is always the one who's going to be the goalkeeper. You find as kids, no one wants to be the goalkeeper. And funny, talking about this, a few weeks ago, I bumped into someone known as in the industry, DJ Fresh. So he was saying he was a goalkeeper when he was young, but the only reason was because he was chubby and he was the one who'd be thrown into the goals, So, yeah. And till today, it's still like that. So I started looking at how I became goalkeeper and the impact I made on not only on goalkeeping, but as a goalkeeper, the impact I made on the football scene and in the country. And now that has inspired me really to start a goalkeeping academy. And one of the things I say when I talk to people is I want to make goalkeeping fashionable for the kids. If you look at why, as Africa or as South Africa and more as a continent as well, the reason why we don't have a lot of our brothers playing in Europe is because we are developed late in life as goalkeepers. And the African goalkeepers that are playing in Europe, you find they were in Europe early. They went there as 10-year-olds. So they were developed in Europe.
I actually remember reading something some years back where they talked about the strengths of different African teams, but they looked at the environment that they trained in. So, for example, if you're playing, like the old days, like small goals, just 2 rocks, then you find like your midfielders are very well developed because of the nature of the playing, or the strikers, because now they must score within these 2 goals. Yeah. But even those, like I remember playing in Maseru, and when you're playing with 2 rocks, you don't need a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
So like you're saying, because of that, we haven't been developing those particular skills.
And again, remember, and the popular one that we play, it's not even the 2 rocks. It's 1 pal. Where we put just one and we're hitting that. Now, as we speak about it, I'm thinking, now I know why whoever developed 1 pal was, because no one wanted to be goalkeeper. And so I decided, let's just put one and let's just score by just hitting that 1 rock. I just see it as a great opportunity I'm really at an advanced stage right now of really putting that dream to life. And for me, one of the things for me is that because I never got to go play overseas, if one day kids coming from my academy of my movement that would go and play overseas, then I would know that at least I play overseas through them, So that's one of the things that's my mission right now.
Was there a moment where you went, actually, I can do this for a living? Like, if I meet you 13 years old, 14 years old, now you're being forced to play in goals in Alex. To go from there to actually now being a professional football player?
Honestly, back in the day, it was far-fetched. It was never something that one thought or believed it would happen. At that time, we started seeing players on TV. Kaizer Chiefs had a goalkeeper from Alex. His name was Isaac Chirwa. In the 80s, he was more reserved to Peter Ballack and Ben Sitlodi. I guess about 16, where one started having and believing that this can happen. I loved just playing football, being on the field. So I played at school, I played in Alex, I played for Baffoe. So I was one of the kids in the late 80s from Alex. A lot of the kids started playing in the suburbs. So around Alex, I played for Baffoe. Sheikh Skumani played for Wanderers. There's a whole lot of other kids like Alfred Piri and them, they played for Highlands Park. Then there's a few then that went to Vets. So we played in those Jewish communities, and a lot of the kids that I played with, some of them that back then used to go to England because they had dual passports, and they'd go on trial at Chelsea, at Wimbledon, and some of them turned pro in other sports. There's one in particular that I played with at Baffoe Park, and then he became a Protea, a cricket player, Neil McKenzie.
Okay.
Neil McKenzie was a very good footballer. There's another one who eventually went on and played hockey and represented South Africa at the Olympics and was captain. His name was Ryan Botha.
But they had the options.
They had options.
You didn't have an option.
We didn't have. The only option, and again, I mean, growing up in Alex, in the township, was always, whether it's your parents or teachers, is what do you want to be when you grow up? Football was never on the radar of things that we wanted to be. So I guess, I know at some point I wanted to be a teacher. Started first wanting to be a cop, and then I know I wanted to be a teacher. Then I looked at it and I said, no, I want to be a lecturer. But again, then when you look at footballers back then, a lot of them were teachers. I guess maybe those are some of the things that now that were inspiring us wanting maybe to be teachers as well. Bonsiema Pike, all of those that including Doctor and them, they went to the teachers' colleges, but I know I'm not sure if they did graduate from those. But yeah,
it'll be interesting to find what the correlation is between kind of football and being teachers. It's just one of those random things. It'd be interesting to see, okay, what is the connection? What is the reason behind it?
Yeah.
I mean, at home, was there pressure to find something like that? And when the football started to come to the forefront, what was the conversation like?
At home, I was brought up by a single mom. My dad was in and out of our lives. And so the one person that was the father figure was my older brother. And he passed on in 96. And we 4 brothers. I'm the third. There was not so much pressure from home on really what I wanted. I think I turned pro at 17, and that was in 1991. And it took me 2 years to get my debut in 93. So by the time, and at that time, I used to see some of the great players that Chiefs had at the time, from Bonsiema Pike to Brian Marty, Trevor Mtimkulus, Fanny Madidas, and when one looked at footballers even before, the generation before that, a lot of them, because at that time then football was not full-time. So either they were teachers, and then there was a lot of them again that were nearly the rep for your cigarette companies, alcohol companies, and then some of them then went into insurance as well. There was a lot of them that are till today, like Scaratinto, that are insurance brokers. And so then gradually those were the immediate inspiration, and okay, this is the path that one can take. But I guess at that time it was when just as football now was going full-time pro, and so one then had to see that, around 95, 96 now, when a lot of them like Lucas and then now we're getting deals, going to Leeds, and so then one got to understand, okay, this is the only thing you can focus on, and this is where you can make a living.
I like to jump around a bit, but one of the things that's always fascinated me, and I remember having a conversation, so years ago I interviewed Lucas, and I was asking about, like, after he retired. So he said something to me. He said, at an age when most people are now solidly in a career, they've laid the foundation, and now they're building on the foundation that they've laid. As a footballer, you're like starting afresh.
Yeah.
Was that something you thought about while you were playing? And what was that moment and that decision like to go, okay, I'm retiring, but what does life look like after retirement?
It was always at the back of my mind, and hence I started being in business while I was playing. I bought a lot of businesses, restaurants, capellos, fish and chips, had a salon, I've done all of them, including, owning trucks in the mines whilst I was playing. And for me, I was mindful, and it was always at the back of my mind that, when you retire, what are you going to do? The game is a teacher, and the people that come from the game, if you don't learn from them, then, so for me, having to see a lot of the people that came before us that had played, how they turn out when they stop. And so one was always mindful that, hey, I need to think about what I'm going to do. But I always knew that I want to be in business. And I knew this way early in my 20s. And mainly the two people that always inspired me, motivated me was Jomosono and Kaizer Chiefs. And mainly is two people that I looked at and I could relate. And for me, these are people that have played the game and they've gone on and became businessmen. And those are people that made me to believe that this is the path and I can do it. But retirement is scary. And retirement is scary for everyone. And this is what I try to show people, that think of it like this. Regular folk, when they retire at 65, imagine at 65, you've seen it all, but it's scary. Yeah. And I got to understand in the last few years, when I started knowing that there's some corporates, when someone is going to retire, they even get counseling. Maybe a year before, or in that year that they're retiring, they get counseling, because now they're going into the world they don't understand. They now, they've been actively been employed for 30, 40, 50 years now. All of a sudden,
and before that, you're going through school. So there's always another, always another target.
Yeah. So then football or sports people, not just football, retirement for sports people is not planned. Very few of us plan it. I planned mine. And the reason for it was because I saw a lot of my brothers that were forced to retire. I saw some of them that when it was time to retire, they were still holding on. and we're fighting. Because, so for me, I planned it. And I planned in a way, before I moved to Sundowns, when I was at Chiefs in my 20s, I always thought, and it's something that I didn't have a reason for it. I said, I'm going to retire at 35.
Okay.
But then when I moved to Sundowns, and when the World Cup happened, so I had something that was now pushing me that I want to be at the World Cup. And I firmly believe that I had a shot to make the squad. But then immediately after the World Cup, 2010, when that season started, I still had 2 years in my contract. So silently, that season I played, season ended 2010, 2011. And then I started having the conversation with my wife. I said, I think I don't have, that thing is not there anymore. I am the hunger, the fire. But at that time as well, I had a lot of other things that I really wanted to do and that Sundowns was allowing me to do. My plan at Sundowns had been that when I retire, I'm going to work in the office. And so when I retired, then the boss was not happy. They didn't want, because when I retired, then I still had a year in my contract. But I forced it. I said, no, I don't want to play anymore. And I said, no, let's play another year. I was 37 at the time, and I said, no, I don't want to. To a point where for about a month, including the preseason, when the preseason was happening, the coaches were saying, no, you have to come to training. I was wearing my tie and my suit, going to the office. And I remember one of the press conferences that they had that we were announcing new signings. I spoke to some of the journalists. I told them I'm retiring. That's why I'm not. Then they broke the story that I'm retiring. And but for me, it was that I wanted to be in control as well. That I didn't want, and because I had seen it, I can give you a few players that are legends and icons. And when I look at them, really, they retired. Their retirement was not good. It was not fun. I look at Dr. Khumalo, a legend and an icon. If you look at how he retired, to a point where for many years people were still not sure if he's retired or not, including that, people always ask him, and you'd say, no, I haven't announced officially that I have retired. So I looked at him, I looked at shoes, but the one thing, my first memory and my first experience of someone retiring and bad was Howard Freeze. And I had just signed for the first team. And it was my second year, 1992, my second year in the first team. And in that season, Chiefs had won everything on the table. And the next season, when the season started, I remember at the FNB Stadium, for some reason, I don't know why, the coach, they played him on the left back, and he was older now, and he was always a center back. But he had such a bad game. He was booed off the field. And I looked at him, I was like, geez, this man has given Chiefs everything. He's given Chiefs his life. He's the captain. And this is the treatment he got. And I looked at it, I was like, when I retire, it has to be better than this. I want, and those are things that started being in my mind as a young man, And so from then on, I knew that when the time comes for me to retire, I want to call the shots.
I guess it's always a delicate balance in terms of, and I think it applies to life in general. Like when you make that transition, or you not necessarily quit, but let's say you retire from something, to be able to do it on your own terms, but also figure out for yourself what the right time is. Which, like you say, it's very delicate. It's like the heart wants to keep going, but maybe the body is saying, hey, Chief, We can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
So it also sounds like that transition from kit to suit and tie. At least you had something to wake up for in the morning.
Yeah.
Because I think that's also the other part, and I've seen it with people across the board. It's like if you lose a job, that you wake up in the morning and you go, okay, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
And I find that a lot of people struggle with that, where it's like, okay, now I'm up.
Yeah.
What am I doing for the day?
Yeah, and again, the biggest challenge as well is when you retire, because now when you play sports, this is your passion. So this is something that drives you and makes you to wake up. And so no one forces you. You know this is something that wakes you up every day. And so when you retire, so the challenge becomes you need to find a new passion. And until you do, you're going to be all over. And unfortunately, when it hasn't been planned, and of which unfortunately it still is today, so then you find you try now to find your feet, you try to find yourself. So you're going to go and try different things until you really do find yourself. And that it's not an easy process for you to be able to do that. And I can show you a whole lot of, and a lot of other great players that we've had in this country in the last 10 years that have been retiring now. If you look at their retirement, a lot of them, they've retired and they'll only maybe about 4 years after they haven't been playing, find they've still been trying to play, they've still been looking for a club, and then they finally throw in the towel. You look at Simphiwe Shabalala, and you look at the contribution he's made for this country, including at the World Cup, and you look at how he retired. You look at Kune right now, still wants to play, and he hasn't played in 2 years almost. Hasn't officially retired. You look at a lot of them. So I think football needs to do better in how, in the future, football itself and us coming from the game, we need to look at how do we help these young people with that transition when the time comes.
So I mean, I have a cousin who's involved in football. And he was quite involved with setting up a players' association in the country. I'm not going to talk about the country. I don't want to talk about put his business out there. But and I've had conversations with him, and he's played at the highest level, and he's been part of international organizations, and he talks about that a lot. He talks a lot about the responsibility to a certain extent of former players who have the knowledge and the experience and maybe have developed themselves in a particular way to create foundation for the younger players coming up, because we continue to see the same things. Even in terms of, he was telling me about, for example, like Legends games. And if you look internationally, like Liverpool Legends versus Madrid Legends, etc., there's a system there. And, they get a little something for playing in those games. So there's something to sustain them, which wasn't happening a lot on the continent. It's starting to happen now, where all of these great players that, like, I would still enjoy seeing you on the field. It's not overly competitive, but it's an enjoyment. It's enjoyment for me as a fan and a supporter of particular clubs. And it's something for you just to keep you connected to the game if you're not going to go into coaching, etc. And I think those are the parts of most sectors. And if you say creative and sports, those are the parts that we still haven't got right.
Yeah. I think the sports and entertainment or the creative space, if you look at it in South Africa, if you had to compare it with in Europe and America, it's a broken system. And it's broken in a way where if you look at in the 80s, you look at football in the 80s, because there was not enough money within the game, people that owned the club, they thrived on how do I get the most from the players? But they thrived on, and I don't know how to put it, but they thrived on cheating the players, cheating them in a way. So that's why you find they always preferred to have an uneducated player, ignorant player, so that they can be able to cheat them. If you look at, back in the day, a lot of the players, and funny, sometimes it still happens today, where a young man comes in, all they want is to play football, and the club comes with a contract. The boy takes it, whether it's a 1-page or 10 pages, he's not going to read it. He's only looking at, where do I sign? Music, the same.
Yeah.
Acting, the same. If you look at most of the TV shows that we used to watch growing up, like Bomo Peme, if you look at all of those,
the stories behind
if you look at
what happened to the people that were in it.
Yeah, but all of those shows, when you look at the credits, there's always from production and all of these things, it's Afrikaans, speak Afrikaans. You're like, and I always used to just ask myself, what do these people have to do? What is their understanding of the story that they are telling? Then, okay, yes, it's a business for them. But if you look at, so that's what so if you look at the entertainment industry in its entirety, it was broken from back then. We haven't fixed it. Our challenge is to fix sports and entertainment, because these are two industries that I believe can contribute a lot to our society, and these are two industries where white folk know that this is a job and this is if you'll never hear of a white musician dying purpose, but you will hear of black folk, actors the same, footballers the same, but we are coexisting within the same space. So we need to look at it and ask ourselves, then what is it that we are doing wrong as black folk within the same spaces that we are coexisting with other races?
So I remember having a conversation around magazine when I was in magazine. And it was actually, he's also from Alex, George Majeke. So George used to have these back and forth conversations. And the one day I said to him, I'm like, look, the thing is, I get the social and the emotional imperative. So for example, his thing was, we need a magazine that represents black men in a way that is contextual, in a way that's true to who we are, as opposed to an idea of who we are. And so I said to him, I understand the social element. And I was raised by a Pan-Africanist. And friends of mine joke that sometimes, like deep down inside, I'm more of a socialist and maybe even as far as Marxist. But I buy into the social need. But we are operating with people who are looking at it purely from a business perspective. So we can't just look at it in terms of from an emotional perspective and go, but this is what we need to fix in society. We need to bring some of that business thinking. And it's not, personally, it's not an either or. I think you can do good business with a strong social intent. But I think that's where I found personally, that's where the disconnect is. Because we're operating with people just looking at it purely coldly as a business decision. You can incorporate that into the social thinking. But often we come from a very emotional, especially in this country with its history, and how that history is not ancient history. It's from 30 years ago. Like it's not only in our lifetimes. I was at varsity in 1994. I was in third year varsity. I remember it. Like, it's not, you know, when you're a kid, you're 5 years old, and yes, it's still a very young history, and therefore a lot of our decisions or a lot of perspectives will be emotional. And it's not to lose the emotion, but to bring in the other aspect.
Yeah. And you know, you saying that, you know, in the background with other, you know, guys that we played together, some of us that want to see the industry and the whole change. Funny when you're saying what you say now about the emotion, and what I take from that is that I think we need to look at how do we fix this, but without being emotional. Because I think a lot of times, the only time when we start talking about wanting to fix, whether it's the film industry or it's the music industry, it's when something bad has happened to someone, and now we are being emotional, even dealing with the subject at the time.
Because we're dealing with the symptoms. So we're not dealing with the cause. We're dealing with the symptoms.
Yeah, so now our judgment now is clouded by the emotion, whereas we need to look at it with sober minds and look at, including the people that are running the spaces, whether that are doing business within, need to start looking at, because for me, it's like, if I have an actor coming, I got this actor, I mean, I'm a producer or whatever I'm doing. So for me, I'm saying any industry, like football is a reflection of society.
Yeah.
You know, so sports is a reflection of society, including the arts as well. It's a reflection of society. So for as long as we're looking at, if kids come from the townships or come from the rural areas, they come to Joburg or Cape Town, and then they get into the film industry, but we know the background and how they were brought up. We know a lot of the things, including money, that they don't understand.
Yeah.
You know, so people that are within those spaces that know better, for me, is you have to look at it. If I have an actor who's 20 years old, and by the time he's 25, he's done it all, and then everything goes bad. Saying, if he was brought up proper, if the industry looks after him proper and helps him navigate that, then he's going to be there for 50 years. Yeah. Now, it's a good story for the whole industry. So the industry needs to look at it as in the image and the brand of the industry has to be better. And it can only be better if we teach the people that are coming into the industry how to be better people.
I mean, what's key is you talked about like understanding money. Like, I think it's taken me 48, 49 years to get to the point where I'm like, I kind of get this money thing now. And in the spaces, especially when they're coming into spaces where sometimes the amounts that are put in front of them, we couldn't have imagined at that age. And being able to, you won't know everything, but being able to go, listen, think about these particular things. I can't tell you what to do, but here are some of the things that you need to think about. Here are some of the potential pitfalls that may come down the line. Whether they take it or not, that's their prerogative, because I have children, like, you know, you tell your children stuff, and then you have to let them go and, you know, sometimes do the very thing and regret it. But at least for those people to have that option of a Brian Baloyi sitting down and going, do you know what? I thought about retirement from very early, and I started to think about a plan. At least think about it. Because when we look, like you described it perfectly, when it happens, all of our attention is on it in that moment. But we're not looking at the system that created it.
Yeah.
And then we forget about it, we do our part, and then we forget about it until the next one. You are listening to the Listen to Your Footsteps podcast, a podcast in which I chat to Africans from a cross-section of society and sectors, including art, culture, design, business, and creativity, to name a few. We delve into their journeys, the decisions they have taken to get to where they are, how they do what they do, and everything in between. Essentially, we go wherever the spirit takes us. Now let's get back into the conversation.
I think think that the easiest example to people when I talk about sports and entertainers, the easiest example that I make is I say they are no different from someone otwarang lotto.
Yeah.
So if you look at the profile on most of the time people but otwarang lotto, and it's not just yet globally, you'd see that most of them then. Because this person...
Hana plan.
Yeah, hana plan. Yeah. But this person, a lot of times, is a person that really... Yes, as much as sometimes you'd hear about what is 10 million, more TV, but they don't have actually the intellect and the internal...
It does not compute.
Yeah.
It's a number.
Yeah, and to them now, once Habalion, no, ikasifil.
Yeah.
But again, let me tell you, for me, I believe it's the system that is failing people, but it's deliberate, I believe.
Okay.
Because really, you look at, I always talk about black business, and we always talk about black business not being able to, have taken too long to be able to build generational businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And so the biggest thing we always talk about is like black folk not leaving nothing for the children. But I beg to differ. I'm saying for years, black folk, they leave lots of money for their kids. But what they don't leave is systems. So I believe the biggest things that we need, that we can teach our kids, is not to leave them. So I would say, if you leave your kids with a system, when there's a system that is going to be able to allow them, whatever you've built, and you leave a system that they're going to be able to build onto it, and that they can't work outside it, and they now understand that this is a system to build generational wealth, then those kids are much more, they're better off than the kids that you leave with money and with no system and with no understanding. Because we've seen, growing up in the township, you'll find there's a family there that had taxis, or a family that had the corner shop, the cafes, 3-4 of them, the dad or the parents die, and then the kids, they squash it all. And it's because there's no system. They were left with money without a system. And I think what we need to teach the next generation is systems, and on how do we build. And if I told you today, I know quite a lot, including myself, where from my mom's side, my grandfather in the Northwest in 1921, him and his brothers and a whole lot of other families, there was 17 of them. They put cows together and bought land. And these are things that there's a lot of us that will tell you those stories. And whereby now we have having to fight for land claims and all of this because there was no system. They have that. We know there's a title deed and whatever, but the reason now you are not able to, if they had a system that protects that, your future generations don't have to go through having to fight to get it back.
Yeah, I think the conversation around generational wealth for me is quite interesting, but I think there's a bit more nuance to it, like you're describing, than how we often look at it. And like I've had this conversation with a couple of people where I say, so because I grew up in family business, and I was supposed to take over the family business. So now that I have children, because I experienced it directly, I'm like, if my children don't want to go into that particular business, why am I going to create something to try and pigeon them hole into it? But how I interpret what you're saying, and which is what I'm thinking, like I have a company, is how will my children benefit from the company, even if they don't want to be involved in it? And if when I'm gone, it's shut down, what is the foundation that they have to ensure that they can continue to thrive and live the lives that they want to live. So it is, one way of defining it is a system. Yeah. It's only after I got married and after I got married that I got life insurance. Because my wife is like, Mamela, when if you go. But it's, like I said, it's only in the last couple of years where I've started to understand what that means for my family when I go. So even my debts, even what they can do, and what the plan is. If I pass tomorrow and the life insurance, there's a payout. That payout, how does it ensure that my family can continue to live a particular way and thrive? Without, for example, my debts, where all of that is going to my debts and then they're stuck. Yeah. I mean, like, I define that as you're saying, the system, as opposed to ensure that they can build further and they can build a life further, rather than being not only held back, but actually pushed back.
Yeah. And for me, so like I said, for me, football is a teacher. So I learned a lot from football, including business. I learned from football. I look at, so my generation, the next generations of footballers is that, so when you have built yourself, your name, and now your name is a brand, I look at here in South Africa, I look at Pelé. I look at the Pelé brand. I look at what is been able to do. I look at the Maradona brand. I look at the Johan Cruyff brand. Then you come back here. So you look at us, we know how to build as Black folk. We know how to build and build big things. But then our biggest challenge is protecting them and making sure that they live beyond us. Look at Jomo Sono. Jomo arguably built two of the biggest brands that South Africa seen in our lifetime. The Jomo Sono brand himself and the Cosmos brand. And then on the one hand, you have the Kaizer Chiefs brand. That Kaizer, arguably himself as well, him as a brand, Kaizer, and Dr. Mdaung, and then Kaizer Chiefs. But you look at where that Jomo, the whole business or brands that Jomo has built himself, kind of is the one who's killing them again, because you haven't been able to find ways and understand that, okay, how do I make sure that these brands, my grandkids and grandkids will be able to live off them? And you can see, and again, like you were saying about business as well, sometimes as a family, then sometimes you get your seed to be involved in a business. Sometimes good, sometimes not.
Yeah. I mean, I look at, I think an interesting example is Bob Marley. Bob Marley actually wrote an article on it years ago. It's something like 12, 13 kids. Yeah. The spin-off brands of the Marley name. I mean, at some stage, I don't know if they're still there, there was like resorts.
Yeah.
I was toying with and having conversations about maybe handling Marley coffee here. There's coffee, there's music, there's resorts, there's all of these things.
All of these things. I know Rohan just opened another new resort.
Yeah. I was talking to him with the coffee. And this was like maybe 2013. Mm-hmm. So and the funny thing is that they lost the case for the music. At some stage, I mean, I don't know what the situation is now, but they didn't own the music rights, but they were still able to build, and not even necessarily an empire. They were able to build things that have sustained all of them while they continue to do what they do.
Yeah, and you see how now the grandkids are benefiting from it. Talking of those, just today, I just listening to Skip Marley's new song.
Now all of them are cropping up.
Similar. You look at Fela Kuti.
Yes.
You look
with Sean and
So I think sports and entertainment in South Africa. I think for me, I'm saying we don't have to look too far. We look at other races that are coexisting with us in these spaces, and why are they not having the same problems that we have? So then it tells us that we need to look at the root of the problem. The problem is, like I said, we are a reflection of our society. So it's a societal problem. So we need to fix ourselves as society, So we fix ourselves as society. So by default, then the industry will be fixed. Yeah.
So after doing or trying all of these things when you're playing, and then retiring and going to the office, you talk about hair salon, all of these things,
including a magazine. I mean, I started a Soccer Life for 2. I started with Walter Mokoena. Yeah.
So what have you settled on? What is the space that you've found is your space?
I look at myself as an enabler, and so I always say my company is a solutions based. So I always believe that in different industry, even the ones that I don't understand, I always find people to collaborate with, and I know that then we come with solutions. But having been in all of those that we talk about, including, in mining, so late last year, I was by myself, and then from then on, I said to my wife, you know what? We do work with the Brian Baloyi Foundation and stuff, but I said to her, you know what? I think as much as I'm happy with everything else that I'm doing, but my happy place is football, and hence then I started putting all my energies behind building the academy, the Brian Baloyi goalkeeping academy, and a whole lot of other business that will come from it related, including, using my nickname, the Spider. So my now is football, and for me, this is what I always say, is that I know what football has done for me, and I want football to do that for thousands more kids to come. What football has done for me is, and sometimes, I have friends that are supporting Pirates, Sundowns, we talk, and sometimes when one speaks, and sometimes then fans sometimes take things personally, but so I always say I'm indebted to football, not Kaizer Chiefs or Sundowns, not the clubs themselves, but to football, because football was what brought me to them. So without football, and football, now I understand what football has done for me. Football has done for me what I believe, and for me, this is what I say. One of the biggest things, I think the person you're talking about, your cousin, I think I know who you're talking about. I'm not sure, maybe, but I'm thinking it's Simba Marumo. No, okay. But surely maybe somebody I know, because I served as the president of the union as well in my time playing.
So my cousin from Ghana, it's Anthony Baffoe.
Oh, Jeez, legend. I know him. I've been here. One of the greatest legends, the work he does now, with KEF, and I believe. So there's something that we're busy now here in South Africa with a few guys, and we believe that's what we need in Africa. And it's something that we've been talking, that we want to chat with Anthony as well, is that we don't have a Legends Association in Africa that looks after, or where all former footballers can say we have a home. So we're looking at starting something like that. So where was I before we got to enter?
Just in terms of, I think it was just looking at in terms of what football has given you.
Oh yeah. So for me, I believe if there's one thing that as a country that we need to change, again, we have a lot of things that are reference point. In private schools, sport is compulsory. And then you go to our schools, sports is non-existent. Not even that, in a lot of schools. And yes, we can come up with all the other excuses. There's no facilities and all of that nonsense. But really, so for me, what I know and what I understand, what sports does for a human being. So as people, we are experiential beings. We learn through experiences. School is good, theory and all of that. But as people, we learn through experiences. That's why the other thing we were saying earlier about kids as well. That's why when we were kids, once we how chile. Because now you understand.
Yeah.
So as human beings, we learn through experiences. And white folk understand that. That's why sports is compulsory in their schools. And all of this character building, all of this, these are things you learn on sports field. You can't learn in class. From easy, I show people, if you want to teach your child timekeeping, in class, you can tell them this is how the clock works. You can tell them all of that, but they will never understand until they have to do it and experience it. So in sports, so how sports teaches you time is, if you are playing rugby or you play basketball, if training starts at 9, if you're not there, they're not going to wait for you. It's going to start.
Kickoff is kickoff.
Kickoff is kickoff. If the match starts at 9, they're going to start. They're not going to wait for you. And then you're going to suffer. You're going to know, geez, I got late. Now I'm sitting on the bench. And when you have a coach that understands that through sports, you are using sports to build human beings. Even when you are a star in the team, when you are late, they have to put you on the bench. And for you, then you will understand, you will suffer the consequences and you'll know the pain. So there's a lot that really sports teaches, and that's the reason why sports is compulsory in private schools. And these are things that, for me, I believe, if we really started taking sports, arts, and culture seriously and rebuild those within our schools, within our communities, a lot of the societal challenges that we have in our communities, I'm not saying these will just
fix everything,
everything,
we have to start somewhere.
But it will make an impact.
I mean, I think of driving from Lesotho to Joburg and driving through the Free State. Yeah. And on a Sunday, if you drive, every small town, down to the smallest town with a small township on the side, and there's usually a field. Yeah. And literally the whole community is there. I mean, I saw it recently in Joburg, but on the outskirts. Yeah. Dusty field, they've got their goalpost, they've got a net, because the net gets packed away at the end of the day. And people playing football, and the community there on the sidelines watching football. When you talk about the things that it teaches you as a person, I think, for example, having learned about goalkeepers as we grow older, and it's like, no, it's not just the chubby kid who can't play. And I've always been fascinated by, for example, the level of focus and concentration you have to have as a goalkeeper. Because often, if your team is playing well, the game is happening over there. But in a single moment, in 5 seconds, the game can come to you. So you need a certain level of concentration and focus and anticipation and understanding people, the ball, strategy, all of those things.
Yeah.
for a full 90 minutes,
Yeah.
when you're going to be tested maybe 5 times.
Yeah, and including that, a lot of kids play and then they just think, okay, it's just me, I need to understand. So including that, you need to understand all the 10 people in front of you. So you need to, as a goalkeeper, you need to understand your role, but you need to be able to understand each one in front of you. And you need to be talking to them, reminding them. So yeah, it's more than just a physical sport. It's a mental, it's a mind. And I always say goalkeeping and golf is almost similar, but with goalkeeping as well. 1 minute you're the hero, and 1 minute,
How would you deal with criticism? I mean, it's not as bad as today with social media and all of these things.
Yeah.
But I mean, you used to get hammered sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one thing. Again, that's why I appreciate football so much, and that's why I want to then impart that knowledge. That but it makes you stronger, as a person. And the one thing is that then it teaches you that you make the mistake, you don't dwell on it, because you dwell on it, then you're going to make another one and another one. So you make a mistake, forget about it quickly, and just and go on. The next one can come. You can, the same way where you're the hero, and then in a second you can be the villain. The same, it can happen that you make a big mistake, then you concentrate, then it changes, then you make big saves, you end up winning, and you're the one who saved the club, the team. So it's an emotional game, but you by yourself.
with supporters and fans that are overly emotional. And have theories about everything.
About everything. And I've got a lot of stories to tell about, especially Celtics, playing Celtics in Bloom. It used to be so fun, but, it used to be a big challenge that when I'm there, that and I can hear everything.
And Basotho have a way with
jeez. But and here's what I say: sports teaches human beings or kids. It teaches you that it's okay to fail, because then the system in school teaches us that it's bad to fail. If you look at in school, if there's 20 kids in a class, what we're teaching them is you want straight A's. So now school teaches us to compete against each other. So you from day one when you go to class to grade A, you are being taught to compete, because everyone is fighting to be number one in the class. And but when you go to the real world and go to corporate, it's about teamwork. It's about collaborating. School. So then sports is the one that teaches them, that will teach you to collaborate. But more importantly, it teaches you it's okay to fail. Because if Jordan thing is, shooting the hoops, he's going to miss, but he's going to go back again. Same. Ronaldo kicking free kicks, he's going to kick. Some of them, they're going to go all the way to the stands, but he's going to get that one. So it teaches you it's okay to fail.
And I think it's also, I think that for me, the added part to that which is something that I kind of learned and realized having a child, is it's okay to fail. It doesn't mean you are a failure. Like the whole of you. When I say, okay, you did badly on that, or you made a mistake, it's not an indictment of you as a human being.
Or a reflection of you.
It's the action. And you can move on from that action.
And speaking of that, then takes me back, it takes me again to sometimes with entertainers not understanding the difference between you and what you do.
Yeah.
And Yeah, and it's not an easy thing for a lot of kids that go on into the sports or music and become famous. It's not an easy thing for them to be able, and unfortunately, 9 out of 10 times we get caught up in what we do.
Yeah.
And even when what we do finishes, because we don't know who we are, becomes difficult for us to be able to navigate the world. Yeah, so...
I mean, I always say I was fortunate enough to edit a magazine, and a significant magazine. I turned 40 when I was there. I'd been through the ups and downs. When I got invited to things and people say, oh, it's so cool, you get invited. I'm like, no. My job title was invited. Mm-hmm. I have to go with it. And when I let go of the job title, it did not define me as a human being. So it was just, okay, this particular role, this particular chapter is over. But there's still other things for me to do and for me to explore.
Yeah.
So what do you spend your days doing now? Other than golf? It always feels like every time between you and David, it always feels like you're on the golf course. And unfortunately, I still haven't got, that bug still hasn't bitten.
It hasn't bitten, eh? Yeah. Yeah, just golf. Yeah, it's one sport that reminds you of a lot of things. It reminds you that you're human. It reminds you that, but it's one game where you go in, you can, in 18 holes, you can go, you can experience different emotions, anger, sadness, and excitement. And but it's a beautiful game to play, and I use it mainly to network. A lot of business that I've been doing in the last few years is from golf. It's from just networking from golf, and so I spend most of my time. I'm brand ambassador for Hollywood Bets. I do a lot of work with Hollywood Bets. Sometimes travel to their stores, do customer engagement. I do a lot of work with my foundation, and Hollywood Bets, supports the work we do with the foundation.
What are some of the things that you're doing at the foundation?
So the foundation, we focus on education and sports and health. But with health, we decided to then separate the health part, and my wife started her own foundation called Pink Warrior. And on the health side, and with my wife being diagnosed with breast cancer 2007, then later on we decided, she decided that this is what she wants to do. She wants to educate. She wants to share knowledge about, and mainly because she was diagnosed, she's a 2-time survivor, and we are eternally grateful, and we know that it's because it was diagnosed early in both occasions. And over the years, we've had friends that she met through breast cancer, and some of the other friends that she's had for years, including Lucas, Hadebe's wife. So rest in peace. She passed on because of cancer, and they grew up together in Mafikeng with my wife. So she felt that she wants to share not only her story, but she wants to an understanding that a lot of our people, especially in our underprivileged communities, like in our rural communities and including in the townships, the information sometimes never gets there. Sometimes the information gets there, but sometimes it's spoken in a foreign language. Not in a way that they can. So so that's the work we do.
What was that like, navigating that as a family?
It hasn't been easy. It was not easy in the beginning stages, and more especially at the time I was still playing. I was so when she was diagnosed first time, 20-year-old now was about 3 turning 4. So at the time We had just gotten married in 2001, so young family. But at the one side, I'm playing professional football. I'm extremely active. I'm traveling, but having to deal with, and my knowledge of cancer at the time was, you have cancer, you die. So the thing was, we were scared that, okay, she's going to die. So I had to do a lot of research myself, look at a lot of stuff. But a lot of the stuff, the one thing that really helped me go through my first few months was reading It's Not About the Bike by, what's his name? This guy.
Lance Armstrong.
Lance Armstrong.
Okay, I actually haven't read that.
Yeah. So I've read it maybe 4 or 5 times. And mainly because, and the person who gifted me with the book was Stanton Fredericks. So Stanton, at the time, we till today, we close, very close. And at that time, he was in Europe. But when we come with the national team, we'd share a room that from the under 23s, we always, and our wives were close, we're friends. So when that happened, then he gave me the book. And I read the book, and I think that helped me not only to deal with this, but it helped me with just looking at life in general with a lot of stuff. And when you look at how this guy beat brain cancer, and when he was told that in 6 months you're going to die, but how this guy, so then I started understanding that again, a lot of things that we do is always about the mindset and how powerful the mind is. That's the lesson I took from that. And so that helped me through, and to a point where from then on till today, with a lot of things, whenever, and my wife sometimes says, no, you are too positive. You always, even in negatives, you look for positives. I say, yes, that's how life is.
Yeah.
And that's why I have a, and I always remind her that the reason I have the tattoo of a yin yang for exactly that. And that I believe that in every good, there's a bit of bad. In every bad, there's a bit of good. And I always believe that you don't fight nature. Nature always finds a way of how to balance itself. And I believe, there's always the opposite of everything. But within that negative, you can always find the positive and then hang on to the positive.
And also, one of my favorite quotes, which I've talked about quite a few times, like Tom Hanks talks about it, but it crops up in different spaces. It's, it's like this too shall pass. When things are good, this too shall pass. When things are bad, this too shall pass. And in other writings, it's, it's neither good nor bad. It just is. When you're in a situation when something is going on, it's, if you're looking at it, it's like, it's neither good nor bad. It just is. You deal with it accordingly and you keep it moving. Yeah. And I think also, once you've lived life past a certain stage, you realize that we come out of some of the experiences we've come out of when we were younger. We thought, I would never be able to survive that. And then you survive it.
You survive it, yeah. But with all of this, what I've learned as well is that happiness is a choice. And you choose, and you can't control what the next person can do. And they can do whatever they, upset you, but you choose to get upset or not. And you choose how it's going to affect you. And so in a lot of things are always, it's a choice. So it's the choices that you make. And I choose to be happy. I choose to be happy.
My last question, which I like to ask, what's exciting you right now?
Geez, what's exciting me right now is just I get excited by, I'm a big dreamer. I'm a very, very big dreamer, and but what's exciting me right now is, I don't know, just looking at life, and for me, my family, my kids, looking at them and possibilities on what they could become. But most of all, I think what's exciting me now is the prospects of things that I'm getting involved in. I think I'm passionate about people. And so I'm passionate about people development, and I'm passionate about wanting to see a country become better. And so I'm excited about the things that I believe that I'm doing, that I believe will I'm making an impact. And I think a lot of times I think as people, we give people too much power, and we've given politicians too much power as people, and that so much so that we are at their mercy. And so as people, we have to decide what kind of world do we want to build for the future, for our kids. And so what's exciting me is being involved in building a world that I want to see my kids and my grandkids living type of world.
Thank you very much. It was cool chatting.
Yeah, I had so much fun.
No, thanks, my man.
It's so much. They didn't feel like an interview. It didn't feel like it feels like just having a chat. So yeah.
Like I said to you in the beginning, this gives me the liberty of having conversations with people I've always wanted to have a conversation with. No, thank you.
Later.
Thank you for listening to this conversation. Please leave a review and subscribe. Check out the show notes for links to the guest, the podcast, and myself. I hope you enjoyed listening to the conversation as much as I enjoyed having it.